Alright guys, welcome to the 2024 Edison Awards, or as I like to call it, the 2024 Eddies. This is a project that I've been working on for a little while now. I had the idea to just kind of honor the format that I love, that I think a lot of us have grown to love. It's clearly my favorite format of all time at this point. I've been playing it for over 2 years, and I really enjoy Edison. I think that it is one of the best actual formats of all time. Obviously, every format has its flaws, but Edison is so far, to me, the closest thing that we have to a balanced format. And I know that some people look at it and they're like, oh, it's all birds or it's frogs or whatever. But we've had a lot of different decks win events this year and a lot of decks topped. I mean, look at Anaheim, for example. You had zombies, you had Lightsworn, Fish, X-Sabers made top 4, which I don't think anyone had on their bingo card. And then at other YCSs and other major tournaments, you've had decks like Wing Rhinos, which literally was invented this year, getting a top 8 at a major event. So I think anything is possible in Edison format. If you have a good pilot and a good build, you can pretty much get the job done. And of course, we do have a big 3 with Blackwings, Vayu, and Frogs, but they don't win every event, and there's a reason for that. The format is really well balanced compared to a lot of the other ones, and I think people do flock to it because there are a lot of competitively viable options. Now, with all of that out of the way, why don't we get to our first award of the show? And I want to make this clear. This is only for 2024. So things that happened in 2023 and years prior are not going to count for this. We're specifically talking about 2024 for all of these awards. Just keep that in mind. So let's get to it. And the nominees are YCS Vegas 3v3 Ultimate Time Wizard, RBET Maryland at Xanadu Games, NAWCQ 2024 Austin, Texas, and Format Library Edison World Championship 2024. All of these events were amazing. We kicked it off with the 3v3, which is honestly one of the most unique things that's ever been done, a retro tournament with 3 different formats. So each person on the team had to play either GOATS, Tengu, or Edison format, and there were over 300 players, which means there was at least 100 teams at the venue. That's insane. Then we had RBET Maryland, which was held at Xanadu Games, a racetrack at the time, which if you know anything about Super Smash Bros, that's one of the origins of one of the best locals of all time for Smash Brothers. It's located in Maryland. They had a bar, restaurants, all types of stuff. There was actually real horse racing happening on that day. I was there, and it was kind of cool to see. I've never been to a horse race before. Then we had the biggest retro tournament ever, which was the NAWCQ 2024 in Austin, Texas. That tournament was over 460 players. It probably would have been bigger, but that was the same exact weekend that there was a cyber outage for the whole world, essentially. I know a lot of people's flights got canceled, which was really unfortunate. I think that it could have hit 500 players, but maybe next year it'll happen. And I think the fact that a retro format was able to bring out almost 500 players is insane. That's bigger than a lot of YCSs and Shonen Jump championships from back in the day. Plus, it shows that there's a lot of interest for Edison format. So I'm really happy to have been a part of that, even though I didn't get to play. If you guys remember that story where your boy goofed, but we're not even going to get into that today. You just had to be there. And last but certainly not least was Format Library's Edison World Championship 2024, which was an invitational event, and it had a $2,000 cash prize as well as top 8 playmats featuring Honest. This was an awesome event. It had a lot of the best players in the format. The top 8 was stacked. It had 69 players, which I thought was the perfect number to have. I was able to stream that event. There were a lot of epic sets, so if you haven't seen that live stream, please check it out on the channel. But yeah, why don't we figure out who won? And the winner is YCS Vegas 2024 3v3. If we're being honest, there has never been a tournament as cool as a 3v3 featuring 3 different formats. Not only is it one of the most unique things that Konami has ever done, but it also requires you to have 3 players proficient in Tengu, GOATS, and Edison. And I would say that those are some of the hardest formats to master. So shout out to the winners, which are Steve Silverman, Joshua Lytle, and Nishad. But more importantly, shout out to Konami for throwing literally the best event I've ever seen for a retro format. And I believe we will be having another one of these very soon, probably with different formats as well. I assume Edison will be there, but between Hat, Tengu, and GOATS, I'm not sure what they're going to pick for the other 2. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, that's Tournament of the Year 2024. It's no secret that throughout the years, Edison format has seen a boon in a number of content creators, and there are quite a lot of good ones. And while I do want to take this moment to congratulate everybody for starting channels and putting out banger video after banger video, there's just one that came out this year that is above all the rest, and we don't even need to do a whole list of nominations. With that being said, the winner is 10FD. These poker strategies win Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments. I mean, let's be real, guys. There was only one right answer. That video is insane. If you have not seen it, please subscribe to 10FD's channel. He is an amazing content creator. A lot of his videos are funny. Granted, we all wish that he put out more, but I understand because it takes a lot of time to do all of the editing and gathering of resources that he puts into his projects, but he does deserve a lot more subscribers than he currently has. And even if we only get one video from him a year, if he does stuff like this every time, who could deny him to be the best content creator for retro format currently? So yeah, big congratulations to 10FD. You're a big inspiration to me when it comes to content creation in this field, and I hope you continue to do great things. All right, moving right along to the next category, we have okay, so Innovator of the Year. This award goes to the people who have been pushing Edison forward, trying new things, and keeping Edison from ever becoming a stale format. And while Edison has a lot of innovators, there are 5 in 2024 that have done the absolute most. So without further ado, let me announce the nominations. We have James Ark with Dream Frogs, Zugzid with Wing Rhinos Chain Beat, Alistair and Adam Sheck with Forgs or Fishborg Frogs, Marcus Carice with Virus Value and True Hybrid Blackwing, and Pudding with his Pudding Chaos Fairy deck. And the winner is James Ark Dream Frogs. You know, say what you want about James, but he knows how to build a good deck, and honestly, Dream Frogs had Edison format in a chokehold in 2024. It came out the door winning Nationals, the biggest retro tournament ever, and then it immediately won YCS Sacramento in the hands of Denny Yu right after that. It's very rare that we see a deck that comes out of nowhere and starts winning tournaments, but James, being the madman that he is, was able to create something that is quite annoying, if we're being honest. It dupe blocks you like 10 times. But yeah, the deck is competitive. It actually has a good matchup against other frog decks, and it was one of the first successful frog decks to really abuse Pot of Avarice and the dupe block over and over and over again. So shout out to him, and shout out to everyone else who was nominated for Innovator of the Year. It should not be understated how important you guys are. Marcus for making Virus Value and Hybrid Blackwings, Pudding for making the Chaos Fairy deck. The way he's built it, I think is honestly the best fairy deck in the format. Zugzid for the Wing Rhinos deck, which I do think is competitively viable and has already topped a YCS. And Alistair and Adam Sheck for Fishborg Frogs, which went undefeated in Swiss at Format Library's Edison World Championship 2024. I think it's only a matter of time before that deck starts to win tournaments. It's just that there aren't many people who are playing it right now, and it is quite difficult to play, but we'll see what 2025 has in store. With that being said though, congrats to every nominee, and special congrats to James Ark for winning. And let's move on to the next category. Alright, main deck card of the year. This is going to be to the card that was the most impactful throughout 2024, the card that people could not stop talking about and had to factor in whenever they built their decks, or the card that they complained about probably the most all year. The nominations for this category are as follows: Substitute, Miracle Fusion, Pot of Avarice, Brain Control, Dark Arm Dragon, Deck Devastation Virus, and Trap Dust Shoot. And the winner is, and I'm sure you guessed it, Deck Devastation Virus. I mean, yeah, who would have thought, right? This card has been on everyone's brain all year, honestly. The very first event of the year was won by OG99 at RBET, and he was main decking a copy of Deck Devastation Virus, and I feel like it has only increased in popularity since then, not to mention that the creation of Dream Frogs by James Ark in the middle of the year caused a lot more people to want to out the dupe block and beat frogs. And Deck Devastation Virus is probably one of the best cards against Dream Frogs. So this resulted in decks like Virus Value being created. Blackwing started to main deck Deck Devastation Virus all the time. And pretty much any deck that could put the card in has been playing it in the main deck instead of just side decking it like they used to. Deck devastation virus is probably one of the biggest problems with Edison format, I would say. Long ago, I used to think that maybe like Dust Shoot or Brain Control or Future Fusion was worse, but it has become very apparent that this is the card that stymies deck building the most and gatekeeps the most. And for whatever reason, it's unlimited, so you can play 3 copies of it, even though that isn't usually ideal. But still, the fact that you could and the fact that there are decks that do and have been successful and have won a tournament is crazy. So yeah, Deck Devastation Virus is obviously the main deck card of 2024. And let's move on to the next category. All right, getting through to the nitty gritty side deck card of the year. So this isn't necessarily like a new card because again, Edison format is locked. So most of the cards we've probably seen before, but the side deck card of the year is going to be the one that really had the most impact and maybe even had a resurgence. Is going to be the card that the top decks fear the most, or one of the cards that the top decks fear the most. And it just has a pretty big impact on the game, a lasting effect, if you will. So with that being said, why don't we get into the nominations? We have Spiritual Water Art Aoi, Mask of Restrict, Dust Tornado, Vanity's Fiend, Fossil Dyna, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, and Deck Devastation Virus. And the winner is Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. So about halfway through the year, it was discovered that Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer is better than Fossil Dyna against a couple matchups, particularly against Hero Frogs, which was doing really well in the first half of the year. And because Fossil Dyna could be beat over by cards like Stratos, Alias, Junk Synchron, Ocean, Breaker, etc., Kaiku offered higher attack power and the ability to get immediate results, meaning that if his effect went off, your opponent would lose Treeborn access or lose Hero access, which are both important for Hero Frogs to function. But not only that, Kaiku happens to be really good against Value Turbo as well, which is the other best deck in the format. So it's kind of a no-brainer that this is the best side deck card of 2024. There were other close ones, like Mask of Restrict after Dream Frogs became popular, but it kind of died down after people started to also drop the Dream Frog deck and go back to Hero Frogs, where Mask of Restrict isn't as good. Vanity's Fiend is another card that is honorable mention in that situation because it's way harder to out than Fossil Dyna, but of course you have to tribute for it. Not every deck can do that easily. So yeah, Kaiku is like the best of both worlds because it has high stats, it has a lasting effect on the game even after you get rid of it, and it's good against multiple different decks at the top levels. Okay, next up we have Merch Brand of the Year. So this award was made to honor those brands that made Yu-Gi-Oh accessories like deck boxes, dice, playmats, bags, etc. One of the best things about being a duelist is that you get to show your individuality by the merch that you have. And with that being said, the nominees are Mana Moon, Yggdrasil Materias, Pristine Protection, Dank Ritual, Kaleido, and Gym Tech. And the winner is Mana Moon. When we talk about Yu-Gi-Oh merch and Yu-Gi-Oh accessories, I think that it is quite obvious that Mana Moon is just a cut above the rest. The sheer quality and innovation in her designs are insane. The team over at Mana Moon have made deck boxes out of virtually everything popular that you can think of, whether it be anime, video games, cartoons, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, etc. They always deliver, even if it does take them a little while to get things out, but quality does take time, and it's safe to say that no one is doing it quite like them. Okay, next up, this award is one of my favorites. Replay of the year. So there were a lot of high profile matches in 2024, and maybe one day we'll be able to get replays from Ultimate Time Wizard since Konami does record the finals but they don't actually release it. I'm not sure why. So for now we'll just have to rely on Dueling Book replays, but we did have some banger sets throughout the year, and as for the absolute best one, well, let's take a look. already done. Already done. Picture this, Samuel Pisteno, who is one of Edison's best players and last year's world champion, is on a historic run as he tries to go back-to-back like Sir William Brake when Televisual stops him in his tracks by using only what could be described as the heart of the cards to not only come back after being deck devastated for everything, but also weathering the storm through 3 blizzards in Game 2. This is the most epic duel of the year, and it's not close. Congrats to both players, and if you want to see my live reaction to this match, you can watch the live stream on my channel. But yeah, nothing comes close to this match. Okay, Playmat of the Year. So as we all know, playmats have been a big part of Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Even when I first started, Spellgrounds were the most coveted thing that you could have because pro players like Adam Korn and Iman would use them back in the day. And now we have World Spellgrounds from the 90s that are worth thousands upon thousands of dollars, and people do covet those as well. But since then, the community has started to make a lot of different cloth playmats, and even the standard rubber mats have leveled up quite a bit. So now when you go to an event, you see all different types of mats, which I think is really cool because again, it's a way to express your individuality. Of course, most people just still prefer to play with a Spellground, but for Playmat of the Year, we really want to focus on the mats that are not the OG, ones that came out in 2024. With that being said, the nominees are Format Library World Championship 2024 Top 8 Honest, Ultimate Time Wizard Reborn Tengu, and Yggdrasil Materials RBETLA Top 8 Cyber Dragon. These were the best 3 mats of the year based on design, and honestly either one of them could take it. It's really a preference thing, so leave your favorite in the comments. But why don't we announce the winner? And it goes to RBTLA Top 8 Cyber Dragon. So yeah, I mean, this mat is just sick. Shout out to HT19 for sending me this picture. Also shout out to him for winning RBETLA. But I think that this is the best mat that came out in 2024. Yggdrasil's Materia did the design. They do an amazing job with cloth play mats, and those ones do have quite the amount of resale value, so they do hold up over time, and they probably will be worth a lot of money years from now, especially considering the supply and demand. There are only very few of them available. As far as I know, the only people who have them are the people who made top 8. There might be a couple other ones maybe given out to like staff or whatever, but they are very scarce and the designs are extremely unique when it comes to mats that you've seen before. But yeah, there you have it, Mat of the Year. All right, and let's move on to our next award. So there was a lot of drama this year in Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's to be expected. This is a game that is very competitive at times, especially when you talk about War League, which is where most of the drama goes down. If you're not a part of the Beast Mode Discord server, I advise you right now to join that server, if for nothing else than to just see the drama unfold, because season 3 of War League will be starting soon. But that aside, there were a couple things that honestly just took the cake this year, so I'm just going to name a couple of them and we can briefly go over it. So starting off with number 1, we have James, Frazier, and the Dead Miracle Fusion. This one was great because basically James was about to lose a game and he decided that he was going to play a Miracle Fusion that he knew he could not actually resolve because all of his targets in his extra deck were gone. So he was hoping that if he played the card, his opponent would just see it and scoop, and that's exactly what happened. There was a whole announcement made in the Discord server, so I'm going to read that announcement now. It says, in James Frazier's most recently played match, it was discovered that he consciously made an illegal action in an attempt to bait a response from his opponent. In game 2, James drew his 3rd copy of Miracle Fusion without any legal targets in his extra deck and did not attempt to activate it for 5 turns. If James was not acting maliciously, he would have activated Miracle Fusion on the very first turn that he drew it, since it would have won him the game that very turn. However, as the game played out, James went from being in a very favorable spot to one where he would lose by deck out the following turn. So in a last ditch effort to save the game, he knowingly, illegally activated it, hoping that his opponent would concede before noticing, which ended up happening. Cheating involves outright rule breaking and dishonesty. Due to this particular case's severity level, James will be suspended for the rest of this season and the first 2 weeks of the next season. And it didn't stop there. So obviously there was a bunch of drama surrounding this, but then apparently James tried to argue his case, saying that like, oh, I wasn't actually cheating, I didn't know, blah blah blah. And one of the mods said, do not gaslight war chiefs. After getting caught cheating, James Frazier's penalty has been upgraded to an indefinite suspension. So right now, as far as I know, he's suspended from War League. He cannot compete next season, which is kind of unfortunate because I feel like he does bring a lot of good drama. But yeah, that's one of them. Another one that we had, and this one involved me actually, was AJT in the set Sinister Serpent in the Spell and Trap card zone at the beginning of the year from YCS Vegas. So if you remember, I did a podcast like I always do with Kenny, where I recap events, I recap like anime, Yu-Gi-Oh, blah blah blah, right? Like I talk about everything on the podcast. I just literally talk about things that happened in my life. And one of the things that happened was that me, Raikoko, and AJT were on a 3v3 team for Ultimate Time Wizard Vegas, which was actually Tournament of the Year. And I'd heard that AJT was one of the best GOAT players in the world, and that is true. Like that is actually a fact. His resume speaks for itself. No one could ever deny that. He is literally one of the best players in GOATs. But for whatever reason, on this particular day at that 3v3, round 1, he got into a situation where his opponent activated Heavy Storm, and AJT's back row was the monster card Sinister Serpent, which resulted in him getting a game loss. I spoke about this on a podcast and it caused a lot of drama. There were people mad saying that I was saying that he's a cheater and that it was an honest mistake. And no matter what side of the fence you were on, at the end of the day, it really wasn't that deep, because I don't think that AJT was trying to cheat. I did say as much in my podcast that like there's no real benefit to him setting Sinister Serpent in the back row. But at the time, emotions were high, reputations were on the line. I get it, right? Like if somebody says something like that about you, you're going to defend yourself. So I don't blame him at all. And we did talk it out. We had a 30-minute Discord call after this event. And ever since then, honestly, things have been really cool between me and him. Like he's congratulated me on winning YCS Indianapolis, which he also top 8'd. So shout out to him. He went on to win a tournament, an Edison format, a format library one in Atlanta. He did well at a recent Georgia event held by Big Boy Gaming. So AJT is just a really good player. And we all have our off days and stuff like that. So there's no beef between us currently. But at the time, this was like all the rage. Everyone was talking about it. It was a huge part of 2024. So definitely wanted to bring that up. Another one, as far as drama goes, happened again in War League. So there was an announcement made about a player who was known as Roger Smith, but apparently they were actually the alt account of somebody who was banned in a prior season. So the announcement reads, unfortunately it has been discovered that the player registered as Roger Smith is Luigi Kira Alici, who was banned from the league for cheating during season 1. This year, he has been playing for Shuffle Deck Gaming on his alt account Roger Smith. Ban evasion such as this is strictly prohibited. As a result, Roger Smith / Luigi will be prohibited from participating in future War League matches, and his previous matches played this season will be treated as 2-0 wins for all his opponents. So now that's huge. Furthermore, we have reason to believe that SDG as a team were aware of the fact that Luigi was playing as Roger Smith. With this in mind, the captain of SDG, Giorgione will also be banned from participating in World League for the remainder of the 2024 season. We apologize to those who have made an effort to abide by the rules outlined in the policy document and have had their season affected by these disciplinary measures. So that was the initial thing, and it got really out of hand. Like, people were really upset because everyone that Roger Smith had played against now had their records turned into a 2-0. So if you were in a War League and it's 5v5 and your team had won 2 sets, the other team had won 2 sets, and it came down to Roger Smith, well, if he beat you, then that team would have won the war. So now it's like, if they turn all of his victories into 2-0s for the other team, now that team won that war, and it kind of changes everything. Like, I get it. It's weird. It's a weird situation where, yes, you did actually lose to this guy, like, regardless of him being an alt account or whatever, you did take an L to the player and to that team or whatnot, resulting in like you losing that war that week. But if those losses are overturned and now they become wins, and everything changes, people who were supposed to make the playoffs now might get pushed out. So there's a lot of drama about this. But then there was a follow-up announcement that said, recently it was brought to our attention that Roger Smith was an alt account of Luigi's. In the previous season, Luigi had been removed from his team and stopped participating in War League after initially being banned. However, at some point in the 2023 season, his ban was downgraded to a suspension, which was not mentioned when this issue was raised. Thank you to Nier for pointing that out to us. This being the case, it means that while Luigi had indeed been playing on an alt account in 2024, he was not ban evading, as there was no active ban on him. We extend our apologies to SDG and anybody else involved. The suspension to SDG members and the overturning of match results are hereby rescinded. So yeah, that whole situation was a big deal this year, and definitely had to bring that one up. But I think the one that takes the cake out of all of the drama that happened this year is the handicap Crippen debacle. So basically, there was a team called Out the Mud, and one of their players was handicap Crippen. But it was discovered through Cameron Saunders, who has special powers, that handicap Crippen was actually multiple people on this team, and this team was doing well. 3 of the members were actually just one guy, and he was creaming a lot of the teams throughout War League, which was insane. So basically, when you play War League, it's supposed to be 5 different people versus 5 different people on the other side. But handicap Crippen actually was representing himself as 3 of the members. Potentially it could be the entire team as one guy, but what we know is that 3 of them at least were all one guy. And again, they were stomping a lot of the other teams. So imagine losing to one guy, and he's playing different decks too. It's like Vayu, Blackwing, Hero Frog, whatever. He could play multiple decks, Lightsworn, and still beat you, which is like a little embarrassing. I get it. Some people were definitely upset about this, but the announcement reads, it's come to our attention that Out the Mud has had a player competing on multiple Dueling Bug accounts for this season. Handicap Crippen, Radio 1, and Next are all linked to the same individual. As a result, Out the Mud will not be allowed to participate in the playoffs this season, and Handicap Crippen and associated accounts are banned from War League for the remainder of Season 2 and the entirety of Season 3. Additionally, they won't be included in the MVP tournament. Match results involving this player will not be altered. And the response to that from Handicap Crippen was honestly gold. He said, damn, who snitched? Like, obviously he wasn't taking it very seriously. It is War League. There are no real prizes or anything at stake, so it's not like people got gypped out of their money or anything, or at least I don't think so. Maybe there are some kind of like monetary thing wrong with this, but either way, it's not a lot. So people are just kind of like, whatever, you know, as long as this guy's banned and his team is kind of like not part of the playoffs, not part of the MVP conversation, it's fine. But yeah, he's just like, damn, who snitched? One of the responses was from Ricky saying, just get good and don't lose to literally one person, little bro. Somebody said War League was a mistake. Insidious said, when handicaps alt loses to war. Yo, this picture is unhinged, bro. Oh, this was so good. GBO said, I mean, he had the exact same slow play patterns. Jabba said, handicap Crippen, you were like the final boss. We managed to beat you 2 times, but you had the last bar of HP. Snack said he was the final boss with 3 health bars and different attack patterns. It was honestly gold. All of this, if you're, again, go into War League and just read all of this. It was amazing. I mean, look at this. Moxie's like, E4 got smoked by them. Well, him, my bad. And I believe Moxie's is a part of E4. So that's just like, you know, saying we got smoked by one person. So yeah, that one's going to take the cake for the award of Drama of the Year. Shout out to Handicap Crippen. Despite the fact that you are banned from War League Season 2 and Season 3, you gave us a ton of laughs. And my group, The House, we found this shit hilarious. All right, moving on. All right, we only have 2 left. So deck of the year, I think this one is pretty straightforward. So obviously this year we established a big 3 with Vayu, Blackwings, and Frogs, and all of those decks won most of the tournaments this year. Like honestly, starting off the year with Vegas was Hero Frogs, then Raleigh was Ryu Turbo, and then Indianapolis was Hero Frogs, then Nationals was Dream Frogs, then Sacramento, Dream Frogs. And in between all of this happening, there are events happening in Europe and online events where Blackwings is winning, Value's winning, Frogs are winning, like Stun Frogs and stuff like that. Virus Value comes out, and the 2 invitational tournaments, both RBET Rulers and Format Libraries Edison World Championship, were won by Hero Frogs and Vayu Turbo respectively. If I'm being honest, I think that deck of the year really comes down more to Vayu versus Frogs, if anything. But Blackwings did have a lot of tops and multiple wins throughout the year. Just, it didn't win one of the 2 world championships of the year. So I kind of feel like we can basically exclude it in terms of deck of the year and make it a case between Frogs and Vayu. And with that being said, deck of the year goes to Vayu Turbo. So yeah, as I was saying, there's a case to be made for Frogs, but I think if we're being objective about this, Vayu Turbo has won more tournaments this year and is the deck that gets to play the card of the year, which is Deck Devastation Virus. Granted, there are Frog builds and I'm sure you could shoehorn Deck Devi into, but that really hasn't been seen, at least not in the main deck. And for Vayu Turbo to be playing both the main deck card of the year, the side deck card of the year, and then a lot of other broken cards like Dark Arm, Burial, Return, Caius, the Raikou engine is insane, and it really just has resilience, whereas all the other decks have a little bit of inconsistency, I would say, whereas Vayu just, strangely enough, the opening hands of that deck are overall more consistent than I think all the other decks in the format, and it's well represented in tournaments, which definitely does help. There are definitely more Vayu players than there are Frog players, and I'll say the only people that compete with the Vayu players in terms of attendance are Blackwings. But Blackwings have a terrible conversion rate, honestly. It's really weird, but that deck, based on the number of entrants and how many people actually make it into a top cut, it never quite converts, whereas Vayu Turbo does a much better job of converting, and more importantly, Vayu Turbo just wins a lot more. Both Vayu and Frogs have won Peak of the Beaks, Deck Devastators, RBETs, Ultimate Time Wizards, you name it. If there was a major event this year, those 2 decks have both won. But edging out the competition just a little bit goes to Vayu Turbo. And for that reason, it is the deck of the year 2024. Hopefully in 2025, people will start to play decks that have better matchups against Vayu Turbo, or the complete opposite could happen and people will flock to Vayu Turbo because they also want to win. It seems like a little bit of that is already happening, but I'll let you guys decide where the format's going to go next year. And with that being said, let's move on. All right, the final award of the night, Player of the Year, and this is the most important one. There are a lot of people who are nominated for this award, and basically the Player of the Year, the criteria that I set for this one is that you had to have won a major event this year. And if you're wondering what is a major event, well, a major event is one where multiple other top players are in it. It could be an RBET, Deck Devastators, Peak of the Beak, Ultimate Time Wizard, EWCQ, those types of tournaments all count as majors as long as it's competitive. And by competitive, I just mean that there are other players who are known as top players who are in the event. And also that person will have top more than just once. So obviously you need to win to even be qualified. You need to win an event in 2024. That's the first step. The second step is that you had to have top other events outside of your win. So that narrows the field down by a good chunk. And it shows that the player has some consistency, which is important if you're going to be the Player of the Year. You can't just do like, oh, I won one tournament, never topped again, never did anything else again. That's not going to cut it, especially when you see how stacked these nominees are. And man, are there some crazy credentials in this list of nominations. Also, I just want to say, I did not put myself in this at all. So if you're wondering, there's no bias on my part. I'm not going to like have myself be Player of the Year. If you're wondering about my credentials this year, I'll just kind of briefly go over them real quick so that we can get into the other people. I got first place at YCS Indianapolis, as you all know. I got third place at YCS Niagara. I topped with Blackwings, Amaryllis, Stun Frogs, and Dream Frogs this year. And so yeah, technically I do qualify to be one of the nominations, but it would be impossible to have myself in there and not be biased, right? So with that being said, why don't we get to the list of people who actually are nominated for Player of the Year. First up, we have HT19 for winning RBET LA with Black Wings, and then he proceeded to immediately get second place at NAWCQ 2024 in Austin, Texas with Black Wings as well. Don't forget, NAWCQ 2024 was the biggest retro tournament of all time, which is insane. So he almost was a back-to-back champion, but if he had won RBET LA and got first at NAWCQ, I don't even think that we would need to have other nominations in this category. It would just be him guaranteed. Next up, we have Bronte, who got first at the biggest retro tournament of all time, which is NAWCQ 2024. He won with Dream Frogs. He's the first Dream Frog winner, and he also top 8 at YCS Vegas, the 3v3. He was playing Agents, which means Bronte is one of the people who is able to play multiple formats because he played Tengu format and top with Agents, and then he obviously won with Dream Frogs at the biggest tournament of the year and the biggest retro tournament ever. Next, we have Ludo. Ludo got first place at EWCQ 5 with Black Wings. He also got top 8 at RBET Rulers with Lightsworn, which was random. And then he has multiple other tops with Black Wings and Hero Frogs throughout the year. He's one of the best known players in the format. And say what you want about him, but Ludo is known to be a force to be reckoned with. Next, we have Gary Yu, or OG99, as some of you may know him. He got first place at RBET Online with Value Turbo. It was the first tournament this year. He also got first place at RBET Maryland with Value Turbo, which was the biggest RBET ever at the time of recording. I believe it was like 268 players, but it is still currently the biggest RBET ever. And then he's also topped multiple times with Dragon Turbo, Christius Warren, and Value outside of that. Another person who has 2 RBET wins and is certainly a force to be reckoned with is Chill Phil. He got first at RBET with Black Wings, and he got first at RBET with Hero Frogs. Both of them were online events, but the fact that he did it with 2 different decks is insane. Also, I believe that he wasn't really playing in between those 2 wins that much, so like for him to just play, win, and then kind of take a break and then play and win again with a completely different deck is amazing. And not many people have 2 wins, so like having 2 wins in 1 year is a crazy credential. Another player who has 2 wins is Spiral. He got first at Peak of the Beak 5 with Gladiator Beast, and he was using Hero Signal in that build. It was very unique, especially for his time, and he's the first player to win with GBs this year. I know some people remember the RBET New York deck, but Spiral's deck is completely different than that one, and it was the first actual GB win. It might be the first GB win in Edison format, period. But then he also went back-to-back Peak of the Beak because he won Peak of the Beak 6 with Virus Value, which is a deck that was inspired by Marcus LOL, or Marcus Carice, who was nominated for Innovator of the Year. Then we have Samu Pasteno, who got first place at Deck Devastator 6 with Value Turbo, third place at Format Library Worlds with Black Wings, and top 8 at RBET Rulers with Black Wings. He's also topped other tournaments as well. And last but certainly not least, we have Televisual, who got first place at Format Library Worlds with Value Turbo, second place at EWCQ 8 with Value Turbo, and third place at RBET Online with Diva Hero using the Spy package. She was on Teach Me How to Cook. Also, for what it's worth, he got second place at the first Attack of the Giant card on Sunday at YCS Anaheim, which that event was 128 players. It was single elimination, but it had a lot of the top players in it, and it's just kind of like a nice little thing to add to the resume there. But yeah, there you have it. Those are your 8 players who are nominated for Player of the Year. And with that being said, why don't we get a little drum roll going? The winner of Player of the Year 2024 goes to OG99 and Samu Pasteno. So for this one, we had a tie, but let me explain, because we did have a small community of people who secretly voted on Player of the Year, and they didn't know that they were all being part of, like, there's not a group chat or anything like that with everybody kind of discussing it. It's here are the credentials of each player nominated, and who are your top 2 based on credentials, not based on personal relationships, not based on feelings, not based on something that has nothing to do with merit. But when you look at this list of players, you look at what they've done, who do you think is Player of the Year? And I was shocked, but after tallying everything up, we had a tie. And I'll say this, I think that people weighted things differently in their heads. So some people were really big on, well, this is in real life. If you can do it online and in real life, that's really important. Some people don't really care whether you do it online only or in real life only. Like, there are players who are really good that they don't play online. There are players who are really good that don't play in person. I think the case for OG is that he was able to win online and top several times online, but also win in person and the biggest RBET ever. Whereas Samu has a ton of credentials online, including topping both worlds, which is crazy, and a win. So when you look at the list, I think that these 2 do stand out the most, and I could see why the committee voted the way they did. But congratulations to both. I think this was a phenomenal year for Edison. I'm so happy that the format has been growing and prospering. Hopefully we have more events in 2025 that people can compete in. If If you haven't started playing online, I advise that you at least give it a try. Yes, it comes with its own problems, as we saw from the War League drama and stuff like that. But no matter what Yu-Gi-Oh you play, whether it's in person, online, or whatever, it's never going to be perfect, but it should always be competitive, and you should try to make it fun for yourself. And with that being said, that concludes the 2024 Eddies. It has been my pleasure to host this. If you enjoyed this show, please definitely like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And if you want to show additional support, you can sign up for our Patreon, which gives you access to our Discord server. As you know, we hold tournaments throughout the year. We give away cash prizes. A lot of the tournaments are free to play in. And even when we do charge an entry fee, we give back 100% of the entry fee as prizes. So if you just love playing Yu-Gi-Oh, if you love the game, I think it's a great opportunity to get some good testing, make a name for yourself, and win some money. And with all that being said, I'm going to end the video here, guys. Again, thank you so much for an amazing 2024. Hope to see you all in 2025. Peace.